Yeah, okay, so you can start your presentation if you don't have any questions. So we can discuss the micro teaching materials afterwards in the second half. So you can read first and then you can ask question if you don't understand what any aspects or any terms found in the micro teaching. Okay, please Arvina to prepare your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Lutfi, can you please open the presentation? Thank you.
Okay, so we will present our presentations uh, about principle of language learning and teaching. So from the by Erwina first, time is yours to explain. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all my classmates, and good afternoon, Pak Suharno. I hope you are all well. Please excuse some noise in the background because I have technician who does the service for the aircon, and also it's very dark sky here, so it's quite cloudy and some rain showers. I would like to try my best. Let's start with the very first chapter of the Brown's book, Principle of Language Learning and Teaching. So the very first thing we had directly is why is not first language why it is not a first language acquisition, why we go directly to second language acquisition. Actually, because we know that the first language acquisition is the children language, since we are not children anymore. So we already have our native or our origin, or let's say our first language we have already acquired. Then we go the next level to learn the second language. So in the okay, let me try to short up the second language acquisition becomes like SLA. We have some question come up to understand better about the SLA, and when we have question, then we will we will try to find the answer, and then we will set up some commitments how to make the acquisition successful. So there are questions here. There are 7 questions about second language acquisition. The first is the learner's characteristic. It's about the learner's background. What is meant by the background is about the socio-cultural and also economy background of the learner that can affect the learning process, how the learning will be successful or not. And also the background can be their level of education, and also if they have the previous experience about the learning the language. The second question come up, it's about the feature about the language itself. So I think it's more about the technical. Yeah, we have learned before. I think some of you already studied in the previous semester the some technical features like phonemes, morphemes, word sentences, and other discourse structures. The third one is about the learning process, means that what are the steps and strategies to make the learning and teaching process become successful. And the fourth one is age and acquisition. So we do some kind of like mapping about the age level. Of course, we cannot give the material to the learners who are like between 1 to 5 years old. Materials will be different with the material will be different if it's given to learners who are in the age of like 15 to 20 or 11 to 15, something like that. Yeah. And then the fifth question is about the instructional variables. It means that we are challenged as a teacher, that we are challenged to construct a lesson plan that can facilitate the process of learning itself. And the sixth question is about the context. So can it be like a technical or just a real-time context? So I give you one example. For example, the word salty, it literally means, from the taste of salt. Yeah. But if we go to the like idiom or slang, it can be now meaning as angry or pissed off. So that's kind of like they nowadays people tend to refer to the real-time context. And the last one is the purpose. I think it's quite clear that learners have the certain purpose or goal why they have to learn language. So with all those questions, we would like to form up how to answer all those 7 questions. And then we try to find first the meaning of the language and also the importance of why we should learn a language. And by this understanding, we can understand better, and then we can answer the questions by referring to the theories and hypotheses provided by some linguists. And then we can get like a fundamental picture about the SLA itself. So by understanding theory, we can construct some how do you call this, we have the let's take that question as a jigsaw puzzle, and then we try to get the answer, and we try to understand the background of all this answer by referring from the theories we have learned. And then by being coherent or consistent, and we try to unite all those theories, then we can select what is the most applicable theory in the learning itself. And the first time we have to understand better about language itself, the first is language is systematic. It's more of technical. As I mentioned before, it's phonological, it's syntactical, lexical, and semantical. So all those things we have to learn and understand, and it has to be like in this discrete learning. Yeah, we have to learn first one by one. The second one is language is a set of arbitrary symbols. Arbitrary means like it's a privilege. So it has some kind of power that can be used as for the human communication. And the symbols are primarily vocal, but may also be visual. So those symbols, as I try to explain more about what is meant by the word vocal here. Means that those symbols is is speakable, is pronounceable, but the same time it can be also visual because we have some structure that we can learn. Yeah, we have some reference, we have some books. Yeah, so that can be also visual. And then the symbols can have conventionalized means it can be also referred to the semantic, language, cognition, psycholinguistic. So all these features can surround the meaning itself. So not only based on the context, but also based on their technical features. The next one is language. Of course, we use the language for communication. And then this number 6 is we are using the language for our social communication, and it will head to the further level if we want to understand better about the other culture or other feature of the people around us. Number 7, language is essentially human, although possibly not limited to humans. So until now, we know that what is language is actually a tool of communication between humans. Even though there has been some research that chimpanzee can also speak, but of course it's not human language still until now. And number 8, I think I have sent the wrong on number 8. So I have corrected here on my PPT display now. So number 8 is language is acquired by all people in some way. Language and language learning both have universal characteristic. So all people we can do the same way of how to use the language itself, and the use of language itself is very widely universal. So it can as related with number 7, it can be like human language and non-human communication. And then also neurolinguistic, I think it's relates to the new. Okay, this one I have to ask Pak Suharno what is neuro-linguistic, because is another thing about linguistic. Innate factors, genetic transmission, nature, excuse me, nature versus nature. I think nature versus nature, it will be discussed in the next chapters. And then why in the first place the title of Brown's book is Language Learning and Teaching. Yeah, because we know that the teaching itself is a tool to facilitate the learning. So we have here the definition of learning is acquiring or getting knowledge of a subject or a skill by study, experience, or instruction. And the teaching is showing or helping someone to learn how to do something, giving instruction, guiding the study of something, providing with knowledge, and causing the learners to know or understand. So it can be like all together happening the same time. So we go to the next discussion about SLA, how we can understand better about SLA. There are some views from the linguist taken from this Brown's book. The first one is structural linguistic and behavioral psychology. The second one is generative linguistic and cognitive psychology. And the third one is constructivism. Okay, I will go one by one. Structural linguistic. The languages can differ limitless from each other. So as we know that there are millions of different languages itself, even in let's say in the province of Central Java, there are a lot of different languages. And the second one is the idea or meaning is much less considered. So it is actually considering more on the verbal behavior. And the language is divided into small units we know as like a morpheme, phoneme, all those technical or structural feature of the language. And then behavior psychology is consciousness and intuition are considered as mentalistic, illegitimate domains of inquiry. Illegitimate means it's not a standard one. And the observation of the language behavior have to be reliable to compile the accurate feedback data of learning teaching process. So it's more of the verbal behavior when we speak a language. It's carefully observed. Okay, the second thought about SLA will be delivered by my friend Lutfi. Lutfi, are you here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, time is yours.
Okay, continue for the as a moderator. Okay. Okay, I will explain for the generative linguistic and cognitive psychology. So, generative linguistic is not only describing language or achieving the level of descriptive adequacy, but also explaining the level of adequacy in the study of language that is a principal basis independent of any particular language and so on. So generative linguistic is a school of thought within a linguistic that makes us of the concept of generative grammar. The term of generative grammar is used in different ways by different people, and the terms generative linguistic therefore has a range of different, though overlapping of meanings. That is the generative of linguistic. The term and second is the term of generative linguistic is performance and competence. Okay, and the next from the cognitive psychology is data of meanings, understanding and knowing were important for the psychology, and the focus into reveal psychological principles of organization and the functioning. So cognitive psychology is the science of how we think. It's concerned with our inner mental process, such as attention, perception, memory, action planning, and language. Each of these components are pivotal in forming who we were, and how we behave. The thought related to these concepts can be conscious or non-conscious. We might consciously make an effort to focus our attention on a lecture, for example, but the light flickering in the room could trigger non-conscious elsewhere. So next, uh, the third is constructivism. The characteristic of con, con, constructivism is uh, involves the integration of linguistic, psychological, and the sociological paradigm. So, what is the constructivism? Is constructu- co- constructivism is important learning theory that educators use to help their students learn So constructivism is based on the idea that people active construct or make their own knowledge, and that reality is determined by your experiences as a learner. Basically, learners use their previous knowledge as a foundation and build on it with new things that they learn. So everyone's individual experience make their learning unique to them. Cognitive constructivism is concerned about how important it is for the learners to construct their own representation of reality. Like I said before, the second is the Piaget argues that learning is a development process that involves change, self-generation, and construction, each building on prior experience. Kauman and 2004. And the second is the social constructivism, is the concern about the importance of social interactions and also cooperative learning in developing cognitive and emotional image of reality. And the Brown adds that language learning is a result of the thinking and meaning making that is socially constructed and emerged out of a learner's social interaction with the environments. Page of 13. So, social constructivism is focused on the collaborative nature of learning, knowledge developed from how people interact with each other, their culture, and society at large. Students rely on others to help create their building blocks, and learning from the others help them construct their own knowledge and reality. Social constructivism it's like it comes from Lev Vygotsky, and it's closely connected to cognitive constructivism with the added element of the societal and peer influence. So the cognitive constructivism is focus on the idea that learning should be related to the learner stage of the cognitive development. So this method work to help students in learning new information by connecting it to things they already know, enabling them to make a modification in their existing intelligence to accommodate the new informations. Next, so the development of teaching in the 19th century and the 20th centuries. So the language teaching in the 19th century, I will make it simple on the PPT. The language teaching before the 20th century known as a tradition. This has been done in the scope of language classroom, worldwide with the various manifestation and adaptation even nowadays. And point the second point is late in the 19th century, the classical method was known as the grammar translation method. So far, this method known as a standard methodology for the language teaching in the educational institutions. So next. So grammar translation method is what is it? From developed by Karl Plotz and Heinrich Ollendorff in the time of early to mid 19th centuries. Next, the characteristic of the grammar translation method is the first is the classes delivered in the first language, rarely use of the second language, much vocabulary talk in the form of lists of isolated words, elaborate explanation of the details of grammar, reading difficult classical text starts early, and the fifth is text treated as exercise in grammatical analysis, practice and exercise in translating sentence from the first language to the second language, pay less attention to pronunciation. So the grammar translation method is a method of a teaching foreign language derived from the classical method of teaching. In the grammar translation classes, students learn grammatical rules and then apply those rules by translating sentences between the target language and the native language. So advanced students may be required to translate whole text word for word. The method has two main goals. The first is to enable students to read and translate literature written in the target language, and the second is to further students' general intellectual development. Next, the further development of language teaching. This is the great improvement occurred after the past century. It has been affected the foreign language teaching and learning. It makes more and more language that can be learned. Through the development of education, language learning became less of a privilege for the elite and necessary for the citizens. So, uh, development of language teaching strength from the strength is like students learn a lot of vocabs and reading and writing skills are excellent, and it make activates students' memory. And from the weakness is like poor listening and speaking. I think unnatural and inaccurate pronunciations and so on. So from the opportunities or from the development language teaching is it gives the chance of learning a new language using a textbooks, and students can learn vocabulary not only in the target language but also in their mother tongue. Next, so the language teaching in the 20th centuries. Language teaching in 20th century is known as a learning Latin or Greek. Latin has been called as the classical method, which focus on grammatical rules, memorization of vocabulary, and various declensions and conjugations. The best example of fluvial and cyclical nature method is seen in the revolutionary audiolingual method or ALM of the late 1940 and the 1950. This ALM were more attention to rules and to the cognitive code of the language. The language teaching profession has mirrored this theoretical trend with the approach that has stressed the importance of self-esteem, intrinsic motivation, students cooperatively learning together of development individual strategies for construction meaning, and above all of focusing on the communicative process in the language learning. And the last is a significant difference between current language teaching practice and those of half a century ago is the absence of proclaimed orthodoxies and the best methods. Next. So the conclusion is the process of learning language has developed rapidly over the years, and those processes have arisen repeatedly throughout history. Therefore, the research for a better understanding of the language learning and teaching will certainly continue. Okay, this is the quote of the Noam Chomsky. If you are teaching today what you were teaching 5 years ago, either the field is dead or you are. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, Lutfi. So that's all our presentation today. So we both welcome for any input, any critics, any questions. So I think I will give the time back to Pak Suharno. Thanks for your attention and stay safe.
Okay, thank you, Erwina and Mas Hakim, for presenting the first chapter. And now we come to the second session. That is the question and answers or discussion to give more insights about the topics, that is the language learning and teaching, also the language teaching in the 20th century, the development of, let's say, like GTM was briefly discussed in the first chapter. So just like in the what science or scientific convention, that is the one theory is then replaced by another theory which is newer, or so you will have like the cyclical pattern. So there are some metaphoric expressions concerning the development of language teaching in the 20th century. So let's say from grammar translation method, and then we have the reform movement. So you have direct methods or Berlitz method, and then you have ALM, audiolingual method, and that is in the was born in USA. Also you have oral approach or situational teaching in Britain, and then after 70s, so communicative approaches appeared to replace or meaning to modify the previous methods. So from time to time, or as time goes by, so you have more more teaching methods. Actually, we don't have the let's say like the old one or the obsolete one is completely dead, but some aspects are still being brought so far. So you can have like the eclectic approach or eclectic teaching. So you in your teaching, and then you can apply any teaching method which are suitable for the types of learners. Let's say teaching English for young learners will be different from teaching teaching adult learners. Let's say in terms of methods, also materials. Okay, so now you can put your question in the meeting chat or also orally in the please to comment, so you can give comments, questions, or just to clarify the materials presented by the group. Okay, please. So you may write down on the meeting chat, and then we can read together, and then Mbak Erwina and Mas Hamid, Mas Hakim can put the comments. So yeah, and there will be like the dialogues. Dialogues techniques actually appeared in many thousand years ago. In the time of Socrates, there was a dialogue, and Socrates was supposed to die because of provoking youth or young generation to have more critical thinking. So by the state, Socrates was considered dangerous man, and he should die by drinking the potion, minum racun gitu ya, karena hanya masalah tadi metode mengajar yang dialog tadi itu Anda bisa dihukum mati gitu ya. Oke, silakan. So like the grammar translation method still applies up to now. Because why? If you are teaching large classes, so what you can do is to use GTM, meaning the techniques or the materials. So let's say like the reading or the text selected from, let's say like if you are teaching law students, and then you can select from law or legal text. If you are teaching the students, the engineering students, and then you can select from the technical text. But the way you present, it's like the GTM, yeah. So you discuss the vocab, you discuss the grammar, you discuss the reading comprehensions and so on. Also sometimes the language interaction is in the first language, meaning in our context is the Indonesian. Yeah. So depending on the group. So if you are teaching the students of communication major, like in the social and political science faculty, so the focus is on the communication skill, meaning like in the public speaking. So the focus is on the speaking skill or communication skills. Hello, no comments, no questions? Okay, please open your Brown's book, yeah, Brown's book. I don't know whether in the
But would you like me to share Brown's book?
yeah. No,
I mean,
you could open from the files, yeah.
yeah, I already downloaded the book.
Open the files, the ebook, PDF.
Yes,
The,
I already have it. You just
yeah.
said that you have to open it. So would you like
Okay.
me to share it?
Which pages you mean?
No. Actually, I thought that you wanted any of us to share the book on the screen.
Oh, not on the screen, not just the.
Okay.
Please open on the files and the. about constructivism, yeah, the constructivism. So here you have the two types of constructivism. So one is pioneered by Jean Piaget, yeah. I call it like the cognitive constructivism, and then second is pioneered by Lev Vygotsky, yeah, from the Russian psychologist. It is called social constructivism. So my question is the difference between cognitive constructivism by Piaget and second social constructivism by Vygotsky. What is the difference, or what are the differences? So you could find in page 12 by Browns, yeah. Or you could find in the PowerPoint by Erwina.
Page 12?
Yeah, page 12 and 13. Yeah. 12 and 13.
Yes.
And the constructivism multidisciplinary approach.
Yes, we can find it. But
Yeah.
actually, on the book I have, it's on page 23.
23.
Yes.
Yeah, so what I have in the printed versions, perhaps different from in the ebooks.
No, actually, I tried to download it from the internet, so maybe it's a different version.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
So in the second paragraph, yeah, about the
Yes.
what is constructivism and how does it differ from the other two viewpoints described above, meaning so constructivism is like the integration of linguistic aspect, psychological aspects, and sociological aspects, meaning the paradigms. And there are two figures, the Jean Piaget, yeah, and second is Vygotsky, yeah, from Russia. Yeah. So Piaget, what do you call the pioneer about the cognitive constructivism, and then while Vygotsky focuses on the social constructivism. Yeah. So the difference here is if Piaget state that social interaction is just kind of the trigger, but Vygotsky said that social interaction is the foundation, yeah, for developing our the language learning. So I suppose it is only in the differences in focus, because Piaget relies on the biological timetable, that is there is a what do you call developmental process that involves in your brain in the cognitive and the cognition. Yeah. Like here for Piaget, learning is a developmental process that involves self-generation and construction. It's building on prior learning experiences. But Vygotsky, the focus is on about the social interaction, meaning the child's language will develop because of the social interaction. So he or she will interact with the parents, with the sibling, and also neighbors or other people. So because of social interaction, and then the child will construct, or they will have like the what making meaning, from the interaction. Yeah. So the formula is the children's thinking and meaning making is socially constructed and emerges out of their social interaction with their environment. Kaufman 2004. Yeah. The children's thinking and meaning making. Yeah. So the children think and then they will make meaning is socially constructed and emerges out of the social interactions. Okay, any other comments about the okay, page 15, the schools of thought and second language acquisition. Ada enggak itu yang di PowerPoint? Erwin ada enggak tadi di time frame, ya? Schools of thought, the division between structural linguistics and behavioral psychology, generative linguistics and cognitive psychology, and constructivism. Can you show on the screen, Mbak Erwina, yang ada enggak di situ?
Screen-nya yang perbandingan, the comparison or my PPT, our PPT, sir?
Yeah, in your PowerPoint, perhaps you could find the.
Because we don't make that kind of like in comparison, but I can share screen what I can get in the book.
Yeah. Schools of thought in second language acquisition itu. Yeah, okay.
This one, sir?
Yeah, okay, yeah, right, yeah. Okay, so if we look at the time frame and then early 1900s and 1940s and 1950s. So 1940s, that is the what? GTM, yeah, grammar translation method. So because at that time, the aim of learning second language is not to communicate, but for reading the literature. That is why the materials were selected from the literary works. Let's say like what novels or from short stories or from the narrative text. Because the aim is to study literature. So in the way the teacher teaches is different from the what present days. Let's say we will analyze the meaning of the words, meaning the diction or the vocabulary. Also we analyze the grammar and also we translate. Yeah. And also the language interaction is carried out in the first language. And then school of thoughts, yeah. So based on the structural linguistics and behavioral psychology, meaning what is meant by behavioral psychology? So if we refer to the theory of learning, so we have the first type is behaviorism, and then second we have cognitivism, and third is constructivism. So behaviorism we refer to two Greek names. What are they? Or who are they? Sorry. Tokoh behaviorism, meaning the famous speakers. That is the Skinner from United States, and then second Pavlov from Russia, yeah, the Russian psychologist. So actually in the theories of language learning or theories of learning were founded by psychologists, not the linguists. Yeah. So they are sometimes the not archaeologists, but the anthropologists like the Malinowski. So if we compare between behaviorism and also cognitivism based on the generative linguistics. So in the period of behaviorism, the learners are treated like objects, meaning they are not considered thinking being. They are considered, let's say, like the what they are supposed to imitate, just the being imitators, imitate what the teacher says. That is why the focus of teaching and learning on the repetition, imitation, and then memorization. So without thinking. So mind and body. So the focus is on the body, yeah, not on the mind. Different from Noam Chomsky and the generative linguistics. So here in the typical theme, description, yeah, description. So observable performance. So anything which is observed, it is in line in the what you call research. So empirical. So anything we could see, we could touch, yeah. And then we could hear, yeah. We could taste. So anything which is observable. And scientific method, yeah, and that is the like language is. So it should be systematic. So based on the research, and then we try to apply the research results. So if we could order like from the research in language, that is the become theories, and then we as teachers we should apply those theory in the teaching. So let's say like in the audiolingual method is based on the behavioral psychology or in the behaviorism, meaning we just what imitate and then the memorize. So like the formula is stimuli and then response and reinforcement. So like audiolingual method is representation of the behaviorism as a language learning theory. Surface structure. What is meant by surface structure? So we have the term surface structure and second deep structure. Anyone? Perhaps in the Pak Agus course or what is meant by surface structure, and then also we have deep structure.
Sir?
Ya, silakan.
Surface structure, it's more of the structure of the language itself,
Yeah.
and the deep structure is about the how we feel about the language.
Yeah. Can you give an example or illustration?
For example, the surface structure is, it's maybe more about the words, yeah. But the deep structure is, it's a further level. It's more about the technical features. For example, like syntax, grammar, and the others. That's it, sir.
Yeah, so if we use analogy, so like the performance and competence, yeah. So competence is similar to the deep structure, and then the performance is similar to surface structure. So what we express, what we speak, express in words, that's in the surface. So which is observable gitu ya. And similar to if we refer to De Saussure is Lang and apa itu satunya lagi, nama jurnal kita Lang is like competence, yeah, or deep structure. Lang and parole, gitu kan? Lang and parole, ya. Parole, the name of our journal, S2 Linguistics. Parole itu kan. So lang is the system in our mind, yeah, abstract. Parole is the concrete, meaning what we say, what we express. Language we express in, because lang is system, and then parole, what we say. So you and I will be different in expressing our language in terms of like the, let's say like accent, or, but the lang is like the rules, what we understand in our mind. Okay, from here in the Longman Dictionary, jadi coba saya potretnya itu ya, about the deep structure ya. The surface structure is generally the syntactic structure of the sentence, which a person speaks, hears, and reads or writes. Ya. Jadi yang tadi, which a person speaks, hears, and reads, writes. Deep structure is much more abstract and is considered to be in the speaker's, writer's, hearer's, or reader's mind. Jadi apa yang ada dalam itu, what is in our mind gitu ya.
Sir,
Yeah.
there is question on the chat from Ivonda.
Yeah.
So she was asking about from slide 10.1, that languages can differ limitlessly from each other, but she feels that it may contrast to the universal grammar, that grammar of all language can be similar in one way. So I was trying to answer the question on the chat. Can you please review?
So what is the questions?
The question is, okay, let me read from slide 10.1.
Yeah.
It was said that languages
can differ from limitless.
Yeah, languages
can differ
limitlessly
from each other. Okay. Would you explain it more and simplify it by giving example? I'm kind of lost they found it against statement of universal grammar. Yeah, that languages cannot vary in an infinite number of ways. I read this idea in chapter 2 from the same book. And then your answer, one example is between two Nordic languages, Norwegian and Finnish. They have completely different grammars, even though geographically Norwegian are neighbors. This happens because the two languages are not coming from the same root of German language. Why there is still term of universal grammar is to simplify the early learning of one language. Yeah, okay, so about universal grammar, and derived from generative linguistics from Noam Chomsky. Yeah. So we have the UG and also what is the second one? LED, ya, the learning apa itu? Language LED, acquisition device. So it is kind of the predisposition or the innate, meaning inherent. And then there was research concerning the word languages. So I forgot his name, or two persons. Research on the 30 languages, yeah, in the world. So perhaps the selected from, let's say, from the 5 continents, let's say from African continent, Asian continent, European, and Australian, and so on. So the complete number was 40 languages in the world. And then from the research, the conclusion was in some what the rules, grammatical rules, there are similarities among those 30 languages. And then they conclude that what the languages are universal. Let's say if we were born in, let's say, in what Crimea or born in Europe, perhaps also we could speak the Indo-European languages. Yeah. So from the 30 languages, and then they assume about there are similarities from the word languages in terms of like plural form. And then the what about the inflection or conjugations. If we look at the Indonesian language, so we belong to the tenseless language, but in Indo-European, some languages are tense languages. Tense, ya. 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 Sebentar lagi. So I suppose your explanation is quite clear about so why there are what significant differences between two neighboring countries because of the different route. So let's say we can divide the languages like in terms of writing. We have Semitic languages, Semitic that is from apa itu Arabic, Timur Tengah, Middle East, and then we have Anglo-Saxon languages. Yeah. Then what else? And then there are what 4 or 5 about the roots of languages. Yeah, Anglo-Saxon, Semitic, and then yang Asia itu apa itu yang masuk? Itu dari from let's say like the contrastive rhetoric, ya. contrastive rhetoric. So I forgot his name. He differentiates between the four types of languages. Perhaps the Hen Farouk can tell me further about the based on the contrastive rhetoric. Yeah.
I'm not sure myself, but would you
Yeah.
please say again? What's his theory? So
About the Anglo-Saxon and then Semitic and then the Indo-European languages. So yeah, that is the kind of the family of languages. Family, yeah. And we belong to the
I think
Malay,
Arabic belongs to the Semitic languages.
Melanesia or Melanesian languages. We belong to the Melanesian languages.
The family of language for Indonesian and Melayu.
Yeah, and so we belong to the Melanesian family, or like and then also we have the Semitic from the Arabic, and then
Hebrew. Yes.
Hebrew, yeah, and what else?
Yes.
And then from like China, Mandarin or Korean, yeah. So from different the family, yeah, or root.
Yes, different families, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Irvina was talking about the differences between Norwegian language and Finnish language.
Yeah.
That people from different countries, they can understand each other. The
Yeah.
language is different and the grammar is completely different, but still they can guess the meaning. About Arabic language, the same applies maybe, but in a different way, because in Arabic world we have 22 countries that can speak Arabic language, the same Arabic language, but different dialects. But those dialects are so different to the extent that sometimes it looks like different language. For example, language Arabic from Morocco and Algeria is so different. Even so difficult for people from Arab, Saudi Arabia or Egyptian Arab to be able to tell the meaning of Arabic words used by them. For example, Turkish language and Kurdish language, they are different languages, but they can understand each other. The same applies to Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. They can understand Turkish, but they are not speakers of Turkish.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah.
The same but with Italian and Spanish. Spanish language and Italian, they are different languages, but Italian people and Spanish people, they can understand each other with different grammar, different rules, different vocab, but still they can guess the meaning. I mean, yes.
Yeah, right. So human beings have the power to, let's say, like to communicate, even using, if we cannot use the verbal language, also we could use the sign language, yeah, using body language, and then we can understand each other. Yeah, just like.
But it's not a sign language.
Sorry?
Actually, the languages are kind of similar. It has similarities in the way it gets structured. Some vocab are similar or common. That's why they can understand each other. But still, different language, but they can guess the meaning.
Yeah,
because
right.
I think their languages are similar in somehow similar.
Yeah, that is through the term universal grammar, meaning in on several terms, several aspects, so we have similarities in terms like about the pattern, yeah. So like English and Indonesian, it is known as the no prodrop language, meaning when you write a sentence, you should have subject. Yeah, if no subject, and then it is considered not grammatical. But also we have the prodrop languages, meaning the subject can be omitted, without changing the meaning. Yeah. So we have the pronodrop and prodrop. Yeah, prodrop language, meaning the subjects are dropped or omitted.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments concerning the about? So we have the universal grammar, and also what even in what English what we are learning now. So if you come to Britain, and then there will be many dialects from, let's say, like the Scotland, and then we have in England, also in what the Wales. So we have Welsh language, completely different from. So the characteristics is voiceless, let's say like diphthongs are more dominant compared to the vowels. So let's say like there is kind of the, what do you call, papanama, and the title. So once I counted of the 60 words, so only 10 vowels, and then the rest is the diphthongs, meaning the voiceless diphthongs, huruf mati, yang huruf hidup 10. And then I couldn't imagine how to pronounce that the name of the shop consists of 60 letters, 60 letters. So 10 only voice voice sounds, and then the rest is diphthongs or voiceless sounds, voiceless letters, huruf gitu ya. Around 60 words. That is in Wales, or Welsh language. Yeah, so language grows like if we look at the English language from like Old English, Middle English, and then now we have modern English. And English is much simpler compared to other European languages, like, let's say, like French or Dutch, or the German, So let's say in terms of the inflection and conjugation. So we only have SES for the third persons, so much simpler than. And then for plural forms, we just add SES. Besides, there is like the exception, like woman, women, and then man, men, and also ox, oxen, child, children. But if we look at the French language in terms of, so you have feminine, masculine class for neutral things, but not in English, like tables or chair. So can be feminine or masculine. Anyone speaking French, you could speak more about that.
No, but we don't speak French.
I see.
Never tried to learn this language. It's very difficult. I think it needs to be learned when we are very young to be able to master it. Yes.
Yeah.
Just know some words like je veux apprendre la langue française. Just some words.
Yeah.
But Yeah, but can't speak it.
Okay, any other comments, question concerning the? So what we are concerned here is about the development of the teaching, teaching method or in the theoretical levels. So any teaching method is based on the certain theories of language. Yeah. Let's say like ALM, is based on the structural linguistics, or even like the old one, direct method or reform movement is based on the phonetics. That is the beginning of the scientific method to So the teaching method is always based on the theories, except the for GTM is called theoryless teaching method. Yeah, some say like that. So the underlying theory is not clear for the GTM. So if you look at the table from my PowerPoint about what approach and methods, so you could see what from the underlying theories, and then the subject with it like with and then the proponents, meaning the tokohnya siapa gitu ya, the proponents, the pioneers found in the, let me check in the I wonder if I have uploaded in the research and method. Let me be back in the files. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on the while I'm checking the materials?
No, but very clear. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah. Sampai jam berapa ini, Mbak Erwina?
2 menit lagi, Pak.
Ya. Ini yang approaches and method. Saya taruh di file ini coba yang. Oh, kok malah anu ya yang.
Pak, untuk absennya belum.
Oh iya, yang
Soalnya lagi
yang masih belum bisa siapa ini ya?
Tadi yang di grup hampir semuanya sih, Pak.
Iya. Anu semuanya hadir kan ya?
Hadir, Pak.
Ya, Mas Hakim, terus
Soalnya tadi lagi presentasi tadi, Pak.
ini Sarfaras, Sadaf, yang merah-merah nih ya, Stella. Lainnya sudah hijau ya. Coba dicek semua sudah hijau. Stella, Sadaf, Sarfaras, sama Mas Hakim tadi. Ini sudah saya centang semua. So I have take Nurul ya.
Already done, sir.
Ya, Nurul sudah. So everyone is present here. Sudah saya cek semua.
Thank you, sir.
Oke, ini yang approaches and method ini sudah saya upload di file, coba Anda cek itu yang berupa apa tabel ya, tapi ini juga ada yang terhapus, ada yang lebih lengkap ini ya. Ini kan yang period, theories, approach, methods, exponents, skill and focus from the GTM up to the ini yang kelihatan TPR, tapi yang berikutnya ada lagi yang lebih lengkap gitu ya. So you could sampai 11 ini ya yang